please pronounce your name correctly for me?
Ingunn Fjóla Ingþórsdóttir.
Lovely. Now we're here at it's the Iceland Art Museum. What's the name?
It's the National Gallery.
National Gallery.
Of Iceland, yeah.
In Reykjavik.
In Reykjavik, yes.
Which I pronounce Reykjavik all
the
time. So
everyone does that. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I'm so sorry. But so you have an exhibition up. I mean, so I guess the first thing, so let's go back. So like, how did you get started? Were your parents creative, like schooling? What was the thing that sort of brought you into the creative path?
My parents are, like, most of my family is like scientists or in social science. My parents got divorced when I was just 1 year old. And my father is a psychologist and my stepfather is a physiologist. And so my whole family was not into arts. But my father is artistic though. He draws and yeah. But I wasn't really raised going to art museums or like looking at art other than just what they had on the walls. It was quite random, I think. But I was always drawing as a kid, so I think my parents they saw that I enjoyed that, so I got sent to a lot of courses, like weekend courses and art courses my whole youth. And when I was in high school, my the line or the program I was in was scientific, so I was at that time I didn't really see art as a profession you could do. It was not like a possibility, you know.
Nobody does.
No, so it's common.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's you know the starving artist kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like, I mean, nobody sees it as like, oh, that's a profession to make lots of money. I should do that.
No, exactly. Well, nobody was stopping me. I didn't have the kind of parents that were telling me that it was a bad idea. They were, but it was just not. It was just not in front of me, you know.
Right, but you also mentioned that you were on a track. So the educational system here is like what after what we call like intermediate, so like 7th, 8th grade or so, you have to choose a gymnasium, basically, like a track that you're going to do, sciences, arts, etc.
Exactly. Yeah.
But is it that you choose it, or is it sort of chosen for you based on your aptitude and tests?
No,
and
it's
grades?
not like in Germany. It's not where it's like a path that is chosen for you. It's you choose.
Is that a German thing? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really early on that they kind of decide which way you should head. If you should go into
that sounds horrible.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'm not, how do you say, I don't know so much about it, but I heard that they choose quite early if they want to do like an academic career, or if they want to go into more like carpentry and some hands-off on
apprenticeship.
Yes.
But I'm thinking back to my own child. I'm like, I would have been, I have no idea what I would have been, like a fireman or like a lawyer or like, I mean, I changed my interests so many times in my youth.
I know. And some people
I would have been a skateboarder at one point. Like, is that a thing?
I don't know. Well, I think it's like parents and teachers trying to find the right path for you based on like your skills and your grades. So it's classifying.
I was
kids.
Horrible at everything in my youth.
Yeah.
Like really bad. Like, I mean,
I know so many people that found late in life what they wanted to do and were maybe dyslexic and thought they couldn't do an academic background, but then later in life they figured out they could do that and now have like BAs and MAs and PhDs even. And so, yeah, so it's not a perfect system, I think, in Germany, but yeah.
No judgment on the German people listening. Yeah. We apologize greatly.
They are structured. Yeah.
I mean, I love German structure.
Me too.
I'm so great with that. I'm great with their design and their like impeccable quality control and all this kind of stuff. Like we talked about this right before we got on the episode, but like I'm 7/8 German. So like I'm all about German, like engineering, you know, all these kinds of stuff. One of my first cars was a BMW. Like I'm all about it.
Me too. I've exhibited a lot in Germany.
A little weird.
Yeah, well, it seems strange to us. I don't know. It's hard to judge when you're not raised there.
Oh no, it's easy to judge.
Yeah, it's easy to judge. Sorry.
Everything's easy to judge. No, but we just may not have enough information to be making a informed judgment.
Yes,
but
that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. So in Iceland, you choose a track and you apply for schools, and but you can change your mind. You can go back and forth in the school system, and so.
And you were in the sciences.
Yeah, so I was, and I was. I thought I wanted to be. I don't know. I was really good at math, and so I thought maybe I wanted to be an engineer, or maybe I wanted to be a doctor or physiotherapist.
How does math equate to any of those professions?
Well, when you're good at math, people tend to put you in a category and say, well, you could be a engineer, for example.
Engineer, I go with math.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Physiotherapist, not so much.
Well, it's logical. It's
okay, so that's what it is.
Yeah.
So math equates to logic.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That makes sense.
Of course, it's working with people a lot, so I get why you don't get it. So yeah.
Yeah, when I was in high school, they gave us one of those little aptitude tests of like what your profession should be based on, like your whatever.
Yeah.
And they said that I should be either a art curator, a museum curator,
Oh wow.
or a mortician. And I'm just like, how are
Life or
those
death?
similar?
Yeah.
Like, how are those? I mean, the closest I came up to was like working alone, sort of like doing your thing, researching, little science, little comment. Like,
Exactly.
but like, I thought that was the most ridiculous combination.
Funny
of jobs.
that it's so exact. It's so.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not like work in the funerary arts or,
No.
anything like, or work in the arts, but art curator or mortician.
That's strange. I never
Oddly
took
enough,
those tests.
my brother became a mortician. Oddly enough, so like, maybe it was just a family trait, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've of course curated just like every other artist and professor does, but not my thing though.
No.
I would like to curate more, but I guess I don't push on doing that. I'm not sure I keep in touch, I guess, well enough to like do it.
I see. I mean, like keep in touch with artists and like.
And what's going on in the sort of the ethos? The ethos is not the right word. The like what's going on in the current arts community kind of thing. Like, I mean, I think I would probably be pretty good at like curating a historical exhibition, but maybe not a contemporary exhibition.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
Story I'm sticking to.
Good with stories. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Yeah,
finishing
so-
schooling.
Yeah. So I finished this. I think it's called high school in English. This gymnasium.
18 years. Yeah. Gymnasium is high school.
In Iceland, we had a different system. So back then, we finished when we were 20. So quite old.
Just to be clear, though, your youth was in Reykjavik.
Yeah. Well, in a suburb called Kópavogur.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
close.
Makes huge difference.
Yeah. No, not at all.
No, it's pretty. I mean, there's really only one big city in the whole
Yes,
island. So,
exactly,
okay,
yeah.
So pretty much.
But I spent my summers in the north of Iceland because my father lived in Akureyri for a while. He actually lived in the West Fjords in a town called Ísafjörður. But my whole family, both my mother and father.
He lived in the West Fjords in a place called Ista something?
No, Ísafjörður.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a little weird, but all right.
Yeah. No, so my whole family, both my mother's and my father's family is from the north. So I spent my summers there and holidays.
Okay, so I'm from the United States. I'm quote unquote like from the north. Like I mean, I don't whatever. But like there's like a true like northern southern divide in the United States. There's a very distinct difference. Is there a difference like between like northern people of Iceland versus, let's call it like city folk?
No, not really. It's same mentality. There's a slight dialect difference.
There is.
Yeah, there's they speak a little bit more harsh in the north. They like pronounce the town Akureyri instead of we would say Akureyri. So yeah.
That's very subtle, yeah.
There's like and there's like this debate on if the weather is better in the north or the south, and they claim it's better in the north. They say it's always sunny in the north at Akureyri, and then so it's like small
Okay, so not major differences.
No.
I mean, in the United States, we've got like, against racism, for racism.
No,
like we've got
like
pretty
that.
big divides
No.
in our thing. Yeah, okay.
No.
All right.
And people move back and forth, and so.
All right.
Yeah.
So, art school.
Yeah, and so like I finished this gymnasium, and I wasn't sure what to do. I had this idea of going to the university, studying something practical, scientific maybe, but I wasn't sure, so I took a year off, and I worked for 1 year for a shipping company. I was like I don't know what it's called in English.
Shipping company?
Shipping company. Yeah, okay, yes, it's an old shipping company called Eimskip. And my job this was like the beginning of the internet. So my job was like, I have no idea what it's called in English. I was taking letters from one department to another, because the emails were just it was in the early days of emails. So it was still a lot of paperwork. And I had like a tray that I was taking with an elevator between the floors and picking up papers and taking them to a different department back and forth.
Delivery boy,
yeah. Delivery girl.
Yeah, I was going to say so sexist what I just said, but that's fine. You get the gist.
That's what I was doing. And it was fun. And I worked for a year, and I realized because I always thought I could have like the arts. I had been painting for many years, and I thought I could have it as a hobby alongside a more practical career. And then I realized, there's not a lot of time and energy left at the end of the day. And so I took a U-turn and decided that I wanted to pursue the arts. I had been encouraged by teachers at this art class that I was going to, weekend class and night class, but I never really thought seriously about it until then. So I applied for a foundation year at it was a school called the Icelandic College of Arts and Crafts. It doesn't exist anymore. Now it's the Reykjavik Art School on the other hand, and the Iceland Academy of the Arts on the other. So I applied for this foundation year, and I got in, and after that there was no turning back.
All right, I want to jump ahead for a second though, because you sort of talked about like, having a job and like doing art as a hobby. Like, so how do you find sort of like that balance of like making money, having a career, like all this kind of stuff in Iceland? Yeah,
I think it's the biggest struggle that we have here.
It's the biggest struggle artists have everywhere. Yeah, you're not special in that way at all. But I'm interested in sort of maybe what some of the unique struggles are that exist here.
Exactly. Well, I guess we have a grant system, and we have, you could say we have a grant system that is maybe not as good as they have in Norway, for example.
Okay, wait, side note, this podcast is supported by a grant from Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, so I'd say I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's my position, but go on.
Yeah. So we have like a support system, and but the grants that we get, they are quite low, so they are never really enough to kind of live from. So I have been doing jobs on the side since I graduated from my BA.
Okay, wait, just to be clear. So are you talking about the artist salaries?
Yes.
Okay, because like you said grants, so I'm just
wondering
if there are additional grants.
Yeah, there are. Yeah,
I was going to say there's more than just the quote unquote like artist salary, or what is it, stipend salary? What's it, salary?
Yeah,
it's called artist salary.
It's artist salary. Yeah. It's like a monthly payment that you get.
But it comes in different increments, like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, something like that.
Actually, in Iceland, it's in months.
Months?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's even worse.
Yeah. The most you get is 18 months.
Oh, that's horrible. Okay.
And very, very few people get that. Usually just 1 or 2 a year. Usually the person going to the Venice Biennale get that one. And then maybe 5, 6, 7 people get 12 months, and then the rest gets like 9 months, 6 months, even 3 months. So it's there, but it's not enough, you know.
Okay, wait. So let's take this one step, because I'm still learning and trying to understand this. So, how much effort has to be put in to receive this grant? Because, like, from my experiences, I find grants / residency / all these other kinds of opportunities, which are great opportunities. I don't want to like negatively approach them. I find them, as a general whole, to use up so much energy and time for such little potential return, oftentimes. Because in general, you'll write like 10 residency applications for with the potential of getting 1.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work and effort, because each one of them have to be individually written. They have to be individually researched. They have to be, they want their images formatted differently, and it's a freaking pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Same thing with grants. Like,
exactly.
It
is a lot of work, and it's once a year that you can apply for this, and it goes for the year after. So you write this. I would say one of the problems is that you write this in September, and you base the application on what you're going to do the year after. And so you're writing in September 2021 what you're going to do in 2022. And sometimes you already have like some things planned, but very often you don't. And the museums have not finished their schedule, and the galleries and so on. So it is quite difficult, like when you're starting out your career and things are happening quickly. It's hard to get the grant, but maybe you get the 3 months then. And
but I'm like 30 years into my career, and I hate that question. Like, what do you here? Let me apply for a grant for a thing I'm going to make in the future. I don't even know what I'm going to make tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. So you try to say it generally enough so that you can change it, but still like have a mission. But the thing is, you need to have some proof of what you're going to do. So you have to have like a formal invitation from a gallery or from a museum. So there has to be something that kind of,
Just to be clear, just to like put this all together. So you have to have a formal invitation from a gallery or an institution or a museum for an exhibition of a thing that you might make sometime in the future, if you get the funding in order to then do the exhibition. So, because like, it's this horrible little vicious cycle, because like,
you could say it's like that. Yeah.
Well, because like, I mean, okay, so you get let's say you get a gallery to say, okay, we'll do this exhibition. So then you turn around and you apply for funding, but you don't get the funding. Can you still do the exhibition?
Yeah, you can, but then you just pay everything yourself, Yeah.
Again, vicious cycle. This is the problem. I mean, because like far too many of us, we have to put so much money out of pocket for the hope and the prayer that somebody's going to either buy it or support it or fund it or whatever it is in the future. Here in Europe and Scandinavia, I call Scandinavia Europe, so I apologize. You're Schengen though.
Yeah, and it's one of the Nordic countries, even though it's not like, So we have an agreement with the other Nordic countries, and we're not in the European Union, but we are in the what it's called,
continent.
And we have like this what it's called, there's another agreement like
Schengen.
Schengen, and also this
there's another agreement.
It's called Evrópska efnahagssvæðið, so it's like a financial agreement. I'll look it up. I'll send you an email.
Okay,
tell you
that
what
explains why my bank card works here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
but shoot, I totally lost my train of thought.
We were talking about this artist salary that you apply for.
I mean, I love the theory of it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Like, I just wish it was substantial enough to actually, like, so from what it sounds like, it's not enough money to, let's say, not have another job.
Yeah. And the thing is that it is specifically categorized as a 67% job. And
I noticed that
yeah,
here, that
is,
you all
yeah.
do like percentages
Yes,
for jobs. Like
exactly.
I saw 40% jobs, 50%
Yeah.
jobs, 60%. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, in some ways, I love that precision.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it's like, that's kind of ridiculous to be able to like, quantify that. But
Yeah.
yes.
And so maybe it's a way to justify that this salary is not higher, because it's not enough per month. But you are not allowed to have a job that is more than 33%. So it's funny. And it used to be like, this has changed over the year. This grant system is quite old, and it used to be more like you didn't have to specify a project or an exhibition. It was more like, I'm an artist, I need time to work, I need time to be in my studio. Please give me this artist salary because I'm worth it. And you got that, and you got time. But now it's more, how we call it, like Excel, more, everything is more categorized, and it has to be kind of justified in means of science, or like,
Oh, yeah.
how
It's
do you,
quantifiable.
Exactly. So now it's more project based. So you have to have a project, and if you don't have, well, you can actually, if you don't have an invitation from a gallery or a museum, you can say that you are doing a research on something, and you can kind of, put it into words that it's worth.
Always doing research.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So you have to justify. You have to justify the time that you spend, and yeah. So one of the problems is that it's the due date for the application is in September, and often the art scene is not ready. The biggest museums have decided their exhibitions, but the smaller ones maybe not, and the artist-run galleries and so on.
Why haven't the institutions and or the government deadlines matched up? Like,
that's a good question. That's something that,
that seems obvious to me. But I'm an outsider. And I make no judgment.
Yeah. Or have totally application deadlines twice a year would make it easier. So it's it's a heavy system and maybe hard to change. The other problem is that this salary is only like 2/3 or like half or 2/3 of what average salary in this country is.
Oh, so even that quote unquote like 60% that they're giving you is actually a low salary of 60%.
Yes, it is very low, and it's it's very low, and you have to pay the taxes yourself and take care of everything.
Taxes are high here.
Yeah, and so from this salary, you are running a studio, you're buying materials, and there's hardly anything. Well, there's not much left to kind of provide for a family. So, yeah.
Well, so then lends back to the question of like, how have you found it to personally, so disregard the government grants and all this kind of stuff, like, but your personal experiences of like trying to be an artist financially, like professionally in this region?
Well, my way of doing it has been to have a job on the side, and I have been...
What do you do? I just want... It doesn't have to be exactly what you do, but like, I always wonder whether creative people take creative jobs or do creative people take jobs that are not creative whatsoever to save up their creative energy?
Yeah. That's actually a thing I've been trying to figure out, because mostly I've been working in the fine art field.
Right.
So I've been a coordinator for the Icelandic Visual Arts Association. I've been the general manager of the Living Art Museum, which is like a 60% job. Then I was a 40% artist. and I've been a coordinator at the Iceland Academy, which was a 50% job. So I've done like part-time jobs on the side, and I've also been teaching. And then I have received this artist salary quite a few times. So I have to watch out not to be ungrateful. So I've been able to take a pause from these part-time jobs and focus on my art 100%, and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Right, but just to be clear, I'm visiting as an outsider. This place is so expensive.
Yeah, I know.
Like, so I mean, like, how do you live? Like, if I was trying to be an artist here, I'm not sure I could afford it.
Well, we don't eat out.
Seriously?
Yeah, well,
I get it.
Yeah,
like,
we cook at home.
I went to try and buy, like, I was just like, oh, I'll just get pizza. Like, that'd be fun. I'll get pizza. It was like $50 for a freaking pizza.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My biggest secret.
I eat popcorn while I'm here.
Yeah.
And bread.
Potatoes.
And day-old bread.
No, but my I hate to admit this, but my biggest secret is that I have a husband and he's providing for our family. Yeah.
Is it a secret that you have a husband?
Well, no, it's not a secret. No, I would really want to say that I would really like to say that I could provide and be like fully working artist, but yeah.
My wife is an accountant. She makes a good income. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We make approximately at this moment the same income. So like, it's not like she's the breadwinner, though I would love it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I joke with my wife. I'm like, honey, you want to be like a power businesswoman and like you want to support the family. I will be a stay-at-home dad and an artist. Like, I am all for that.
Yeah.
She doesn't want that though.
No. Yeah. But actually, I like working on the site. I always thought that I didn't like it because when I was working sometimes a bit too much, I was always kind of craving to be more in the studio, and that's a good feeling, you know.
It's that thing.
Yeah.
Like, when you're busy, okay, for me, when I'm busy, I'm exponentially busy. When I'm not busy, I am utterly not busy.
Yeah.
Like I watch everything on Netflix.
Oh, really?
Like I am not busy at all.
Yeah.
Like, but I find that creative people, or the people I know anyways, do a lot of what I call like fits and spurts.
Yeah.
The ebbs and flows. Like when you're creative and you're busy or whatever, you're very busy. And when you're not, you are utterly not.
It's a good description. Yeah.
You know, so like when you're busy with a job, like even if you're just busy, suddenly you have less time and suddenly you're like, wait, I only have so much time that I can then fit some time into the studio. So I really have to focus and work.
Exactly.
Whereas if I have nothing to do, I'm like, meh, I'll get to that later.
Exactly. Yeah, I get a little bit lazy when I have too much time. Yeah.
Oh, I get a lot lazy.
Yeah. But it's a balance you have to figure out, because I've also had periods where I've been working too much, and then also having exhibitions and doing like my art, having my art practice on the side, and it can be difficult because it's difficult when you're always making art when you're tired. You know, it becomes a little bit negative, and negative energy is not good for creativity. So you have to watch out. And so I don't have an answer. Like I don't think there's like a perfect way of doing this. It's like, yeah.
I've learned for myself, I stay out of the studio if I'm depressed or negative or whatever, because I'm just going to waste art supplies. I'm going to waste my time. I'm going to, waste stuff, because even if it's good, I'm not going to have like a good association with it, because it's going to remind me of that sad, depressing, whatever time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just stay out and I just wait until the time comes. But not everybody has that luxury, quite honestly.
No, exactly.
Well, we're very privileged in this way.
Yeah. But back to the art scene in Iceland, there's another thing that I feel is a little bit special about Iceland is that for the longest time there hasn't really been an art market. It's the artists here depend more on grants and artist salaries than they depend on selling the work. So it hasn't been like a market-driven art scene. So it's very experimental and but something is changing now. There is, I don't know, the public is more interested in art, so they are buying more art and there are more galleries popping up. So at the moment there is something going on, and so people are selling more. I don't know how long that will last, or I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but something is going on.
Well, it's an interesting balance because like I've made my position clear about this. Like in America, it's very much like you make a product, you put it up on the wall, you sell it, you take the money from it, you reinvest it, you make more work. Very capitalistic, totally. Europe is a general whole, and I'm going to include Iceland in this particular statement, which is basically very much more conceptual. So like you come up with an idea, then you get that idea funded, and then you produce the thing, and there's no need for it to be sold because it's already been paid for through the production process, which in many ways I love. Because there's no pressure, no necessity for sales. But if sales happen to come, it's like a double down bonus for you. Because not only did the production get funded, but then you sold it also.
Exactly,
But a lot of the work is very difficult to sell. Nothing personal. I'll even say your exhibition that we're here looking at. Like one side of it is very much sellable, maybe not sales specific, but it's got pieces in a frame that are on a wall that could be separated out or hanging on a wall, not in a frame. But then the other side is of the exhibition is very experiential. It's a full installation, much more difficult to sell, if even possible to sell. Quite honestly,
only a museum would buy an installation like that. Yeah, but I have sold installations.
So family and children is often a topic that comes up that, we wonder, like, is it something that is beneficial personally, professionally, or are there any issues? I mean, for that matter, we could even expand that into any sort of forms of like sexism as well. Like, have you had any of these kinds of like issues? Because like specifically when it comes to children, I've heard stories about women in particular where they have to I shouldn't say they have to, they choose to take some time off to be with the children after they're born. And it puts a gap in their CV, and then that becomes an issue about how to get back into the career and all this kind of stuff. So, like, are any of these kinds of things the types of things you have run into?
I don't think that's an issue in Iceland. We have this maternity leave system, and you can decide if the father takes it or the mother. There's like you get 3 months each, and then you have 3 months that you can decide who takes. And usually it's the mother because the mother is breastfeeding, but it could just as easily be the father. And there has been a lot of talk about having the maternity leave longer because it's not enough. And the kindergarten doesn't start until they're 2. So we have we have an in-between system of like daycare. It's called dagmamma, like daycare mothers, sometimes fathers. So yeah.
Well, in the Czech Republic, they have a 1 year minimum maternity leave, 3 years optional, paid by the government.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it sounds more romantic than it really is, but there's a set amount of money. The women will be given based on their salary the day they go out on maternity leave, and they can choose to get the entire amount of money in 1 year or have it spaced out over 3 years.
Okay.
But their job has to legally be waiting for them upon their return.
Oh, what about those that don't fit into that system?
I don't know.
No, it's another topic.
Well, no, the problem that they do is what they do is they'll get out and then they'll get pregnant again at 2.5 years, and then they'll have another 3 years out. So they'll end up having 6 years out of work, but their job still has to legally be waiting for them when they return 6 years later.
Wow, that's maybe difficult for the how do you say that?
It's got its pros and cons. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, here in Iceland, I think we're pretty far in terms of equal rights. Of course, we're not all the way there. There's still like a gap, especially with the salary. It's men get higher salary than women, but we are in our mentality, I think we believe in equal rights, and so taking care of children is something that the mother and the father, they divide the chores, and Usually, yeah. So
not breastfeeding, but everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
good.
Yeah, I would say so. And in my case, my husband has taken and does still take a big part of the parenting and just running the household in general. So it's not like you take. Actually, I didn't take a lot of time off with either of my boys. I was doing an exhibition with my younger son when he was 6 weeks old. I don't recommend it. It was an exhibition that I couldn't postpone. I was trying to, but it was a complication with timing and grants and so on. So yeah, but in Iceland, it's quite normal to have a family and be an artist. Whereas I've exhibited quite a lot in Germany, and people there seem to have a different mentality. They seem to be surprised that I can be a practicing artist and a mother at the same time. And yeah.
I'll tell you, there's something I've heard about in Scandinavia in general. I mean, specifically, I heard this story in Norway, but I believe it's Icelandic as well, which is a difference between a lot of other cultures where in a lot of other cultures, when somebody has a family, when they suddenly have children, their life sort of revolves around the children. So like it shifts everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard stories, so help me out if I'm wrong on this story, that basically like the mentality of the Scandinavians is more, okay, I have a child who is now part of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you don't really change your hopes, dreams, beliefs, careers, whatever, to accommodate the child, but now the child is sort of on the journey with you in your life and career and etc.
Yeah.
Is that about right?
I think so. I think also I think it's right. I think we don't set everything aside. We just continue with what we are doing, but of course we have a system that supports that. You know, we have kindergartens from the age of 2, and they are not expensive. And
I was going to say, that sounds young to me. For some reason, I remember kindergarten being like age 5 in the United States.
Yeah, it's very normal. They start at 2. Some even start younger. They have like an infantry, like a special
for the
daycare.
Gifted children. They get to start school early.
No, it's more like a daycare center for people. Well, there is this problem with the gap between maternity, when the maternity leave stops and the kindergarten starts. So that's a period of problems with how to solve
a
daycare.
year and a half.
Yeah. So one of the answers has been to have like a special kindergartens which are for younger kids, almost like infants. Yeah.
That would be pre-kindergarten.
Pre-kindergarten. Yes, exactly.
Kindergarten is already before garden. Pre-kindergarten. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's people see it as a normal thing to have a kid and to continue with whatever you're doing, continue with your studies at the university or art academies, and continue with your careers. But also, I think we are quite tight. Like there's like this tight family relationship in Iceland, so we rely a lot on the family. So we rely on the grandparents, for example, to help out with the kids, and it's a small community, and there's not like huge distances between places. So I think most people here have a support net to help out with the kids, and I hear for those that don't have a support network, it's more difficult.
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me think about like my future. I'm like, I probably won't have much of a support network
Yeah.
when I have kids, because my parents are in the United States and her family is like 2 hours away from where we are. So like that's not really helpful.
No. Yeah. So so the grandparents help out a lot, but also just aunts and uncles, and so it's and friends also, like. Yeah.
Okay, but then equating that back to the arts, because of course that's what this podcast is all about. So like, have there been any pros or cons, like any opportunities that have come because of being I shouldn't say because of being a mother, but because of being a parent, or anything that has sort of been taken away from you, some opportunities because of being a parent?
Well, I guess I could say that I haven't done a lot of residencies because of being a parent, because I can't imagine doing them with my kids. I just wouldn't be able to focus. And
because some of them offer that now.
Yeah, some of them offer that, but I would have to have a nanny, and I don't know how that would work out,
I'm going to my artist residency with my nanny and my child.
Yeah, no,
seems wrong.
It seems very wrong. And many residencies are for like 2 or 3 months, and I'm just not ready to be away from my sons for that long a period.
Well, okay, shift that gear a little bit. Are residencies incredibly important?
I wouldn't know, because I haven't really done any of them.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I ask is because like when I was in school 20 years ago, they were not very important in the United States, I should be clear. And they didn't seem very important. However, now I feel like they're very important.
Do you mean like in terms of having them on your CV? Like
partly having them on your CV, partly making connections through them, because like I hear stories of even people I went to school with doing residencies, ending up meeting curators, other artists, collectors, etc., who then build their network in some amazing way that if they had not done that residency would never have happened.
Exactly. Well, I guess in that way they are important, yes. And I think I know a lot of people who have been doing residencies, and I have been wanting to do one just to kind of get some space and time to focus on my art. But I have been abroad doing exhibitions and stayed abroad for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and that has been very fruitful. I've made connections and so on, and through that, but it hasn't been like a formal residency. But yes, I guess they are, and they can be important, but you can also, well, I've managed without, So,
well, but theoretically a residency is funded and pays for it, so there is that element again of like the freedom of having something paid for as well.
That's true. One day I will do one.
Well, okay, but so you talked about like the idea of exhibiting in other countries. I would imagine Iceland, and keep in mind, I'm so sorry if I'm offending Iceland while I say this kind of stuff, but like there are probably limited opportunities here. Like, I mean, there are a number of opportunities, but you're going to run out of opportunities at a certain point if you do a long career here.
That's true.
And so like you're going to need to go elsewhere. So like how important is it, like the balance between like having a utilizing the opportunities that are in country and utilizing opportunities out of country? Like what's the balance of those? Like,
it's a good question. I think I'm still figuring it out, or trying to figure it out. It's absolutely true what you say, that it's a small community, and it's like I've been working as an artist now for 15 years, and actually I think I could say I have exhibited in some way in every museum in Iceland. So there comes a time when you feel for your career to grow and expand, you need to go abroad, because otherwise you're just kind of doing the same circle again. Like, okay, I'll do that museum again. And that. And
what was the first museum I showed? I'll go back and try them again. Now, 15 years later, we'll do a retrospective.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's quite important to go abroad, and it is difficult in some ways. For example, we are an island. You have to either fly or sail to get to the mainland.
And ship artwork.
Yeah, and ship artwork,
cheap.
which is no. So it comes with a lot of expenses, and it's hard. So you're not able to do that many times a year. And so many Icelandic artists, they live in Berlin, for example, or they live abroad for some period.
I noticed a lot of them in Berlin.
Yeah.
Because I did a little Google search, like Icelandic artist, and like many of them came up living in Berlin. Why Berlin?
Well, I think it has sort of developed over time that it's a place. It's easy to go there. It's quite cheap to live there compared to Iceland.
Agreed.
Many galleries, so a lot of things happening, and and because there are Icelandic artists there, they have relations, so it's easier for the other ones to come and maybe benefit from those relations already made.
Makes sense.
And yeah. Let's see. And it's vibrant, it's live, and it's, for a time people said it was the center of the art scene in Europe.
I love how you say, for a time people said it was.
Yeah, because
implying it's not.
Well, that's what well, it's hard for me to make judgments because I haven't lived there and I haven't experienced it. But I hear many people now are moving to Athens, to Greece, or to Lisbon. There's like a new center, or maybe there are more centers. So I don't know. There are many centers, I guess. Used to be Paris and New York, and then Berlin, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Berlin before the pandemic and actually did interviews there with people, some of the earliest episodes of the podcast, and many of them were basically like, it's opportunity rich, but financially poor. So there are lots of exhibition opportunities, lots of galleries, lots of institutions, but not a lot of collectors.
I see. Yeah.
So like you can go there and basically build your CV and have some great opportunities, but you're not going to make any money.
I see. Yeah. So some people come back, and and many Scandinavian people get their financial support from their home countries, and then they live in Berlin, and then maybe this artist salary is enough for you to,
you take that 60% Icelandic salary, but live in a cheaper place, and it's actually not that bad.
Exactly.
Interesting. No, wait, step back to like, so you have not sort of left Iceland.
Well, I have. I studied and lived in Denmark for 4 years, but that was like a how do you say? I started studying at the Iceland Academy, and then we moved to Denmark because my husband was studying, and then we came back, and I continued my studies. So it was like this leap.
Sure.
Leap years.
We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
But and the reason why I ask, and I've asked most people this, and I can't, please, Iceland, don't take offense to everything I'm saying here, but like, why do a lot of Icelandic artists either stay and or return?
I think it's family.
Okay.
I think so. And for up until recently, you could not do an MA program in Iceland. So you had to go abroad to study. If you could get an
Scotland. A lot of people go there.
Scotland,
I've noticed that.
And the Netherlands for many years also. So there was only a BA you could do in Iceland up until maybe 8 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
So now there's an MA program, and I actually did that because I was not in a position to move abroad when I felt it was like time for me to do an MA. But I did an exchange study in Stockholm, in Sweden, which was really good. And the good thing about the MA program in Iceland now at the Iceland Academy is that it's taught in English. It's an international program, so a lot of people come in from abroad.
If anybody from the school is listening, I'm a photography professor, always looking for a new full-time position. I would be happy to come and interview for a position there. That sounds amazing. But anyways, always looking for new jobs.
Yeah.
Like, come on, how much fun is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because like I grew up in Washington, D.C., and then I moved and graduated, and I have no interest in going back.
Okay, yeah.
No. None whatsoever. But
so you want to stay in Europe? Or...
That's a funny thing. When I got married, I was living in the United Arab Emirates. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's a long story. But so I was teaching there. So I was in the United Arab Emirates. I got married, and my wife is Czech. I'm American, and so all the expats all joke, "Oh, your wife married you for a green card for America," and I was like, "Who are you kidding? I married my wife so I could work in the EU."
Yeah.
I totally don't. I have no interest in going back to America. Are you kidding? It's ridiculous over there right now.
Yeah.
The politics, the poor support for the arts. Like, the one thing that was always sad to me being in America was the utter disrespect I felt towards the arts.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't see the benefit of it whatsoever anywhere near the way almost every European country does.
When you measure everything in capitalist terms, it's hard to see the benefits of just pure creation and culture. And yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I grew up, my father's a priest. I don't know, priest, minister, reverend, whatever word you want to put to it. I'm so bad with naming my dad. But, and so like, I'm all about like community building. And so like, that's my teaching, that's, you know, the arts, it's all that. And of course, my father's also an icon writer. So like, yeah, we have a very interesting family. My mother's an interior decorator as well. So
I see.
Yeah. But so, you know, I'm all about that idea of the community, supporting things, building stuff, all this. And whereas like the American culture just cares about money.
Yeah.
Like really money and power.
Yeah.
And those are the two things they're all about. I mean, like when I was in college, was I in college? Yeah, I was in college and I went to Belize, you know, British Honduras, down to Central America. And I got there and one day our teacher was like, "Oh, would you like to go meet the national artist?" Oh. And I was like, for fuck's sake, they have a national artist?
Is it like 1 year or what?
No, it was like a lifetime appointment.
Oh,
like,
wow.
He is the national artist.
Oh, really?
Not only is he the national artist, his artwork was on the currency.
Oh my God.
And I was just like...
When do they change? Is it like a lifetime thing? And
I have no idea. I haven't looked back. I mean, this was 1992. So like, I don't know. I'm sure it's changed by now. But, but the fact that this small country had a national artist.
Yeah. That's how much they appreciate the arts.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Then they put his artwork on the currency. So they don't have like dead white people, dead racist white people on their currency the way that America does. Yeah. And it's just like, oh my God, other countries can do it right. And like, ever since that experience, it's always been like, I've been trying to find that place that really is excited by, supportive of, and all these other kinds of great adjectives around the arts. Yeah. And Europe is far more of that. Yeah.
But we have to make sure that it stays that way. It's a fight that we can't, stop fighting, because here every year when they announce the artist salaries, who are the artists that get the artist salaries, and it's not only visual arts, it's also like in music and theater and design and writers and so on. And then every year the social media is like on fire, and people like claiming, why are we paying for these stupid artists? Why can't they just sell their work and make a living like the rest of us? And
to be honest, a fair question. Yeah. Like, it's a fair question.
And then the other side is saying, okay, we want to have a cultural society. This is what it takes to have a cultural society. And we are proud of our artists, and we are proud of the culture, and we sell the culture. Like when tourists come here, it's because of the nature and the culture.
I have to admit, walking around the city, this is probably the most dense city for public sculpture that I think I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, there's almost a public art sculpture every block.
Yeah, you're right. In the center. Yeah.
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 Sorry, I don't go anywhere but the center.
Yeah.
So the city center. But not even the city center. I mean, I've gone out to some of the sort of the parks on the, I don't know, northern side.
Yeah.
That end. I'm pointing to something she can see, you can't. But like all the way down. Even the parks out there.
Yeah.
Sculptures everywhere. Like, I mean, I was sort of very pleasantly surprised by the sheer volume. And also murals, lots of murals.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of cities don't like murals for whatever reason. I mean, and I kind of get it. But there's also not a lot of graffiti here. This is a very clean city, too. I have to admit that.
Yeah. There are places with graffiti. I think in the center they are cleaned off like immediately.
Well, but not just the graffiti.
And removed.
I mean clean. Like I was out somewhere and I saw like a whole crew of people like weeding the sidewalks and stuff. Like it's a clean city.
Yeah, it's the time of the year when it's clean. It's funny because we have this. It's called vinnuskóli, which is like a school to learn how to work, or would be the direct translation. So it's like a program for teenagers. In the summertime, they get
apprenticeships or internships. Yeah.
No, well, not really. They are just they are getting a job from the city. And they are cleaning the city. So maybe a month ago, everything was a mess, But now we have the teenagers out and cleaning.
It's funny. Okay, from my American perspective, when I saw these teenagers out cleaning the street, because it was teenagers doing this, I was just like, oh, those are the delinquents that got in trouble.
Oh, my God, no.
Because in America, the kids that are doing that kind of work are the ones literally that like went to court and they had to do what's called community service.
Oh, my God. No, it's not like that. They are getting paid, and it's like a way to teach them how to work and to get salary, and so it's sometimes called like teenage work or
I think it's great. I thought they were delinquents.
No, they're just normal Icelandic teenagers.
Normal Icelandic teenagers do delinquent work, like community service, the way they would do it in America. Okay, that's great. I mean,
so they get some weeks a year that they can work and get paid, and
Yeah, but again, back to like the sculpture stuff. Like I was very pleasantly surprised by it. Like I sort of had the impression that this was a very visually culture related, so whether it's the nature or whether it's sort of like even like the church that everybody knows, even the new harpa institution, like very visually sort of striking architecture and stuff. But I did not know that there was such a sheer volume of sculptures all around.
We have some important artists that were focused on sculpture, and we are Ásmundur Sveinsson.
Yes, that one.
Einar Jónsson, also a female artist, Gerður Helgadóttir. There's a museum named after her in Kópavogur. So so we I think we do take pride in our sculptors, but actually Iceland is more known for the literary heritage. Like we have so many writers, the sagas, so the visual arts are quite new in Iceland. It's a young, like our art history is like beginning in around 1900.
Well, okay, but so going back to like the support that's given to is it equal support? So like, let's say performing arts, music, author, writers, visual artists, are they all given equal support, or is some of them given more money, some given less money?
It's not equal. The writers are getting more. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and
I mean, all they're doing is putting pieces of paper. Why do they need more money?
Well, it's a debate. The designers are getting even less. The visual artist. Design is a new field in Iceland, so each art field gets like a certain amount of months that they can give out to.
Right. And so design can be done quickly, so they get less months, whereas writing takes a long time, so they're given more months.
Maybe something like that, or maybe just like the design is a recent category, so they've still like.
Just for clarification, design, do you mean like furniture design, pottery design? Like, I mean, is that graphic design? Like what kind of design?
I mean like product design,
Product
but it's
design, okay.
but it's not. I don't think it's specifically like categorized in the like. I think you can apply with like different backgrounds, but it's more like projects that are like independent and you don't get paid by a company or like someone else funding it. Then you turn to this.
Isn't that called being an artist? But yeah.
Exactly. Freelance designer or artist. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, but there has been discussion about that it's not really fair that the writers get so many months and the visual artists get less.
Well, okay, like, because I'm sitting here in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, an author says I need 18 months to set aside to write a book. Mm-hmm. Fine. Totally legit. I'm not going to in any way yuck their yum. I'm sure they absolutely need that. But then, like, let's say there's a stone sculptor that also needs 18 months to carve one stone. Exactly. And they need to buy all the tools, and they need the workshop, and they need to buy the stone in the first place. There's so much more what I call, like, hard costs. Yeah, exactly. That visual artists or even performing artists, musicians, you know, they need their equipment, they need the recording studios, they need all these kinds of things that authors don't need. No. I mean, authors quite literally just need a piece of paper and a pen.
Or a computer.
Not even. It's not necessary.
Yeah, it's not necessary, right. Yeah. But in a way, I hate to compare. And I wouldn't, like some people have been saying, we should take some months off the writers and give it to the artists or give it to the designers. I wish we could add more months so that, I go the other way. Yeah. Don't take anything away from anybody. Yeah. Put more funding in. Exactly, yeah. That's a real simple balance. Yeah. Like you don't. It's funny. There's another thing that I do in my private life that like they a lot of things are. People are taking things away, thinking that's an incentive in some way, but realistically, putting more into it is more of an incentive. Exactly, and it has been actually proven, like that the money that the government puts into the arts benefits the whole community, and it goes back into the community.
I know. Yeah. I used to run a public sculpture program. So like I literally had to do research and like convince governments about like how the arts benefits things. And it's hard because it's not.
So it's an investment, actually.
The problem is it's a long-term, non-direct A to B quantifiable return. Yes, and that's the problem with convincing. Yeah. Like if there was a way to make it so arts, like, you know, investment in arts gave X return directly, it would be so much easier. Yeah, but we can't do that. I mean, the only way to do that is like institutions that can basically like click off like every time somebody arrives or show their financials kind of thing. Like that's it. But like when you're talking about like public arts or galleries or museums, it's really, really hard to quantify.
And it's I hate that it has to be quantified, and I hate that it has to be measured in terms of money, because why not measure in terms of happiness? Like, why not measure like how
Oh boy, we are preaching to the choir here. Like the two of us, why can't we measure life and happiness instead of money? Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Yeah. Like my wife is an accountant. Yeah. So like she measures everything in money, whereas I measure like, I'm like, yeah, but does it make me happy?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I have never in my life had the desire to be quote unquote like rich. Yeah. I have always wanted to have this is my goal as an artist. I want to have enough money to do what I want to do without having to worry about money. Yeah. That's it.
That's my goal too.
I don't think that's an unrealistic goal.
No, exactly. Exactly.
But yet it's very hard for a lot of people to accomplish that. And of course, it's very hard for governments to understand that, or funders and all this kind of stuff. So like, that's a whole different thing. But
and I wish culture could be valued for being culture. Yeah.
National artists, put your artist money on their currency. These are the kinds of things, you know, come on. Don't get me wrong. Nobody knows who that Belizean artist was, unfortunately, outside of Belize. But, He was a very nice guy. I ended up meeting him. He he was just like the nicest guy. You roll into his house, he offers you a beer, like he just hang out.
And
so
does he
weird.
get like salary every month from the States?
He sells his his art like nobody's business. He was the most prolific, and like sales, like he couldn't even, like, his work was sold before he even finished it.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But don't get me wrong, the price of his work was exponentially lower than like the price of a similar quality of work from the United States.
I see.
Because the cost of living and the standard of living in Belize was lower. So, like, I mean, he did very well for himself within his culture.
That's good.
But did he do very well for himself, like, based on the New York culture or the Reykjavik? Probably not.
Yeah.
He probably would have been poor here.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So it's all relative, sadly. But
yeah. I'm exhausted all of a sudden.
It's it's just like we're passionate about this, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
All right. One last question that sort of popped in my head is like, okay, so born and raised, I call it on the island. What do you all call it? Like in country, on island, or there any sort of terminology for that?
We say in the country.
In country, okay. Yeah. Born and raised in the country, and so like, I guess the question is like, do you feel like there's a specific sort of aesthetic or quality about the artists of this region, and that if they choose to go somewhere else that they need to change, or is it something that translates well, or is there difficulty in sort of showing work of, by, and about the Icelandic culture in other places? That's a big question.
It's a big question. It's a hard question. Well, I think the art scene now is very international. So I think like artists from Iceland go abroad, and there's not a big difference between what they're doing and what artists from other countries are doing. But I think before it used to be maybe more like specific. There is like this fluxus heritage in Iceland. There's a conceptual heritage.
I love the fluxus.
Yeah, there was Dieter Roth lived in Iceland and had great impact.
Constantly comes up in conversation. Yes. Why is he so important to you all?
Well, he came.
That sounded so wrong. I'm so sorry.
I know.
But like almost everybody I talk to brings up Dieter Roth.
Yeah, he had a great impact, I think. He came at a time where things were changing. So there was a lot of things going on here in the 60s and the 70s. So there was like a group of artists that were more avant-garde and more experimental. And this museum, which we are sitting in, the National Gallery, was not really recognizing that group of artists. It was more conservative. And so,
as most national museums are,
it was probably the same thing all over the world. But I think Dieter Roth was like a great influence to this group of artists, who then got more, I guess you could say, greater self-esteem, or got like support, and I don't know how you could say, were empowered. And so they started their own museum, this living art museum that we touched upon earlier. And it was an artist-run museum, and quite special in a way that it was founded as a museum, not a place to show work, but a place to collect work. Because the National Gallery wasn't collecting the work from this group of artists, and it's called the Zoom artists.
Which is really funny. Yeah. I didn't realize the word gallery versus museum, the difference, until I moved to Europe.
Oh,
and
really?
I started to learn like Kunsthalls and the differences between all of the different things.
And
and suddenly I'm like, oh, so a museum is a place with a collection.
Yeah.
But a gallery doesn't have a collection.
No, they're selling, and then there's a place like a project space.
Not necessarily, because there are national galleries.
Of course, yeah.
But they have no collection. Whereas if you see a place that's called National Museum, it has a collection.
You're right.
I didn't know that difference.
No, exactly. yeah. So you're making a distinction,
semantic difference.
yeah,
Totally semantic.
between like a gallery that is a commercial gallery and a gallery that is like a place to show work. So could be called also like a project.
Yeah, the gallery unfortunately is misused, I think,
Yes,
many different
I think
times.
it is. Yeah.
Whereas, but like the museum word is really is sort of a signifier that says it has a collection.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. 25 years I've been in the arts. I didn't know that difference.
No.
Really bad. But anyways.
Yeah. So there was this movement of artists making like Fluxus-based art, conceptually based art, but it had like a specific Icelandic character. And here actually we have a photo on this brochure.
Yeah, she's showing me a brochure here.
It's a work by Sigurður Guðmundsson, a pioneer in photography, photographic visual artworks and conceptual artworks. And this photo here is of him, and it's in a series of works he called situations. So he's placing himself in certain context and photographing it. So it's like a performance that is photographed, and that's the work. And here you can see the culture lying on the artist. It's the bread and the books and the shoes, and it's the brick and the stone underneath. So yeah.
I will link to this artist in the show notes so that you can look this up. Otherwise, because I don't want it to get mixed up with thinking it's your work.
No, exactly.
So I will put a link to this artist in the show notes.
Yeah, so it has this this group of artists. They were making works that were Fluxus based and conceptual, but it had special Icelandic, like poetic essence. So a little bit lyrical, and so referring to history, referring to nature, and so it was like, and also there was like a minimalist movement here, but it was never like really strict and concrete. It was always a bit more lyrical, or
I would
poetic.
Absolutely associate the works that I have seen with the term minimalist.
Yeah.
As a general, like, if as a broad stroke statement. I've seen many other works that are not minimalist for sure, but a lot of the prominent sort of works and styles that I've seen throughout here have historically have been of a minimalist aesthetic for sure. But like I mean, I was just at the Reykjavik Art Museum, and they have an exhibition of somebody not minimalist.
No, you mean Arrow?
Yeah. Totally not minimalist. But historically, there is a strong. I mean, even your work, I would associate to the term sort of minimalist.
Yeah, I would too.
In the most broad strokey idea, basically. So. It's a very interesting characteristic. It's sort of a cultural thing to have this sort of somewhat of an aesthetic, which this is something that I notice a lot in the arts, is there's either complementary or contradictory. And that's what people do. So either you embrace that minimalist and you are that, you're complementing this history, or you're contradicting it and you're like super busy, super crazy, overindulgent. And
of course we have that too.
So that's what I've seen here for sure.
But not a rich painting tradition, I think. Well, the first Icelandic artists were painters, of course, like doing landscape painting, and it had to do a lot with like fighting for independence. So it was like showing the beautiful country and beautiful landscape we had in Iceland and so on. But then around 60s and 70s, the emphasis changed towards more Fluxus based and minimalist and conceptualist. And it has stayed that way, I think, since then. There's more emphasis on video art, installations, performances, and so on, and not much emphasis on painting. Of course, there are painters, but there are more like, I tend to describe them as like single islands. They're like strong artists, strong painters, but they are not like an ism. not like a movement.
There seems to be a decent amount of printmakers here as well. A lot of
Yeah.
books on paper.
Yeah, a lot of works on
Now,
paper,
I
and
don't
that's also a Fluxus tradition.
Right, it is. Yeah, editions and things like that. But
Edition, artist books.
Right,
Yeah,
but I would imagine they're probably not like printmakers as much as they're artists who do some work on paper. So like, because like even you, like you do some works on paper, which though the particular works I saw in this exhibition are painted or charcoal. It looks like some sort of pastel.
It's acrylic paint on the wall. You mean? Yeah.
But it seems like working on paper is a very common thing here as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I love it. I'm a works on paper person myself, so yeah.
It's very I think there's a rich tradition. And a huge tradition with artist books.
Very nice. All right.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice? That's how I always end everything.
To whom?
To whoever you think you have the best advice for. I guess would be the easiest way to go.
That's hard. I guess my advice to young artists is to just keep doing what they feel is right for them and not bend to like what is like trending or what they feel they should do or the art field is telling them to do, sort of indirectly, but to stay true to what they feel like their intuition is telling them to do. I think, because if you're just doing whatever everyone else wants you to do, it will never be true. I think it will always kind of, something like that.
Yeah, but be prepared if you're going to like stay that course, that there'll be decades where you will not be like on top of the market kind of thing. Bad to say market, but you're not on top of the art scene. There'll be times where you will be out of favor. So like that choice to do that kind of career is a struggle. It's a difficult one. And it's a marathon for sure. For
sure. And but I think it's the only way, because I think if you wanna, I don't know, if you want your art to be truthful to you, that's the only way to do it. Otherwise, you will always be mediocre, I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for a nice chat.
Thank you for listening to the entire episode. We would appreciate it if you would share this podcast with your friends, family, coworkers, studio mates, or anybody with an interest in the arts and creative endeavors. The building and strengthening of the arts and creative community is at the core of our mission for this podcast. They can listen and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are produced by 5014. The audio was edited by CushAudio Services, and the music was created by Pete Bybee. The Wise Fool Art Podcast is supported in part by an EEA grant from Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway in an effort to work together for a green, competitive, and inclusive Europe. We would also like to thank our partners Hunt Kastner in Prague, Czech Republic, and Kunstsentrene i Norge in Norway. Links to EEA grants and our partner organizations are available in the show notes or on our website at wisefoolpod.com.